Welcome to the Real Freedom Podcast, where we inspire you to pursue your passion to gain time and financial freedom through opportunities in real estate. I'm your host, Mike Swenson. Let's get some real freedom together. All right, welcome everybody to another episode of the Real Freedom Podcast, where we talk about building time and financial freedom through different opportunities in real estate. And today I'm so excited. We've got Jim Lee here, and Jim is going to share his story of coming to the United States from Taiwan at age 11, graduating from UCLA, working as inside sales for LoopNet and Costar, which for folks that might not be familiar with that, they handle like commercial property listings, and then got into real estate syndication. So right now you are the founder of Formosa Investing, and you have about 600 units of properties, and we'll talk more details about those properties over the last couple of years, and really looking to gain financial freedom. You saw the opportunity. You had a little time as a real estate agent. We're exposed to syndications and all the positive that syndications can be. And that's where you're at today. So we're excited to chat with you about your journey. So welcome, Jim. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me, Mike.
Why don't you just go ahead and give us that background, how you got in, what you kind of learned along the way, and kind of take us to today and where you're at.
Yeah, sure. So like you mentioned, I graduated from UCLA with an economics degree back in 2010. From there, my very first corporate job was working at LoopNet Costar as an inside sales. I learned pretty much everything I needed to learn about real estate by talking to, real estate agents, property managers, lenders, investors on a daily basis. And I learned the importance of having multiple stream of income, just talking to investors, picking their brains. And eventually I got into, I bought a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom condo out here in Ontario, California. Ever since I got that passive stream of income, I was pretty hooked and never looked back on real estate.
It's fun knowing that, you've got the income coming in, assuming it cash flows, although some people don't always have an investment that has cash flow, but you've got the depreciation benefits, the tax benefits, your mortgage is getting paid off. And it's like, you look at, man, I can do this. And I see all this financial benefit that's coming about.
Absolutely. And that pretty much leads to why I got into multifamily syndication, right? Because multifamily, it's scalable. You can use, like you mentioned, you can use leverage. When you leverage an investment, you reap the benefits of appreciation on the total asset value, while just having a small percentage of your own money in the deal. Not on top of that, there's that cash flow you mentioned, demand, affordability issues that we have right now, and most of all, tax advantages. So
talk through your journey of being exposed to syndications. I know during the COVID lockdown, you had some time where you're able to do a little bit more research. And for those people that maybe haven't heard about syndications, or they've heard about it, but maybe haven't pursued it more, kind of what was it about that? Or what were some of the specifics that you learned that really helped you to get excited about that?
Yeah, so I started with syndication, I believe it was, like you mentioned, in lockdown. And the reason why is because I was a realtor during lockdown, and I couldn't host any open house. And that's the most effective way of finding leads. And so since I was stuck at home doing absolutely nothing, I had to figure out a way to make money with real estate, because, there's hundreds and thousands of ways of doing so. It just, I was just trying to explore my option. And so what I did is I just went on YouTube. I started listening to podcasts, and I came across one of my investors introduced me to this podcast show called the Real Estate Guy Radio Show, run by two, fine gentlemen. They've been doing real estate syndication for 20, 30 years. And on the show, every episode, they always pitch about syndication. So that's when I discovered about syndication, because I didn't know what syndication was. What is this? I never heard of this term before. And they always pitch about how if you want to do bigger deals, you just have to syndicate it. So that piqued my interest to really want to study and learn more about it, because again, going back to what I said earlier, when you focus on multifamily, it's scalable, right? Well, when you focus on syndication, it's also more scalable because it requires partnerships. I mean, you can do everything on your own, but it's going to take forever, and it's a lot of work. It's just a lot easier when you are able to find potential partner that can help you along the way to build your syndication business.
Yeah. I've talked about it in the past with people, and what I really enjoy is it's kind of the best of both worlds, because the people that have the time and the energy to put together the syndication are utilizing their expertise to be able to put the deal together, work out the management, work out the plan. What do we want this to be in the future? And then you have the people that have money and don't have the time and the energy to become an expert in real estate, and they're just looking for a place to put that money. And so it really is kind of the best of both worlds. You get to share your skills and the abilities and what you bring to the table, and you need money, and people with money want to be able to invest with people they know, like, and trust, and are going to take good care of it. And it's really just putting that together versus an investor trying to research condos in Los Angeles and try to figure out, well, what's the best neighborhood? What am I going to do? And if I have a condo and I rent out the one unit, but then, the lease is done, now I've got a vacancy. Here you're talking about things at a much larger scale, and you have 100 units and you might have 5% vacancy. Well, you still have 95 people paying their rent that month. And so it's just an economies of scale. That's very beneficial.
Absolutely.
Talk about kind of the two deals that you've done, maybe in terms of researching markets. Like, what is it about the markets that intrigued you? What was it about the deals that intrigued you? The process of kind of putting that together.
Yeah. So, to kind of piggyback what you just said earlier, it does require you to go out and find potential partnerships. And when you're scaling, when you're trying to close 100+ unit apartment building, there's a lot of things behind the scenes that goes on. You have to have a good property management company set up. You need to find, have established strong relationship with real estate agents, brokers, and lenders.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did to syndicate my first deal, I knew that there was a lot of missing pieces of puzzle that I needed to I need help with, to fill in the spot. So I knew that the type of value I can add is by bringing capital. So now I just need someone else with track record of success, experience, and everything I just told you about. They've established strong relationships in the markets that I'm looking into. So I met my business partner at an event called Investor Summit, run by the Real Estate Guy radio show.
Mm-hmm.
And him and I, we decided to syndicate our first deal in Florida because he had really good, strong connection with a lead sponsor out there, Orlando, and he's been doing it for 20-30 years. And through my business partner's network, I was able to find this deal. And the specs we look for is pretty straightforward. We just look for Class C apartment building, value add. Typically it's a 5-year hold. So that's what the deal entails for both the property that I syndicate in Orlando and Jacksonville.
Now, when you're looking at, talking about value add, is it there's vacancies and we need to change property management to fill it? Is it rents are below market and we're going to raise it to market? Is it we're going to do, a pretty heavy rehab to be able to increase the rents? What are you kind of looking at in terms of value add opportunities?
Anything you listed above. If there's I'll use my first project as an example in Orlando. It's poorly mismanaged, right? You can clearly tell the rents is not up to date. The building's not, they haven't renovated, put much work into it. They haven't added much amenities. There's not even a gym inside the 200 unit complex. There's a pool. So there's a potential, right? So there's this, I think mainly when we see potential for value add is definitely the management issue. The seller, he also lives in California, but he doesn't have anybody boots on the ground in Florida. And that's a problem, that's where we saw a big potential, and we were able to pay, a little bit over the market value for it.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you're putting together numbers, this is probably where an economics degree comes in handy, being able to look at numbers and financials and that sort of thing. But thinking through, hey, here I am in California. I'm investing in a property out of state, a state that's quite a ways away, feeling comfortable with kind of that market of where it's located within Orlando. I mean, obviously we know there's demand in Orlando. Orlando's a great city, but in terms of picking the right property and the right location, talk about kind of doing that research to choose, what, this is the right opportunity here, even though you're living in California.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. I think the main thing that we tell, because most of our investors are from California, and this is something that most people probably don't know, is that for everybody who invests in California, they've pretty much made money on appreciation, right? Not so much on cash flow. So with these investors, they typically, like, since they made money here, they want to continue to invest here. They don't want to go anywhere else, so it was a bit of a struggle, to convince them, but the criteria that we typically look for is pretty straightforward. It's just, population growth, job growth, landlord friendly. That's very important, because during lockdown, I've seen a lot of my investors get screwed because of eviction moratorium. Tenants can literally live there for a year and not pay rent, and you can't do anything about that. And that's what made us think about our investor. You always have to look out for the best interest for your investor. At the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. So that's why we pick those markets. It's landlord friendly. It's not, and during lockdown, Florida was completely open. So that says a lot. And then another thing, Sunbelt. We look for a Sunbelt state. Anything it's a sunshine state. That's typically where people like to move to.
So what you're saying is, during COVID, there wasn't a lot of interest in looking in cold Minnesota versus warm, sunny Florida.
It just depends. I mean, if Minnesota has growth potential, I've got a couple of investors who has investment properties out there. So I think any markets is better than big cities these days. Like, if you're talking about New York, California, it's just hard to cash flow in any of this market. What you're playing is the appreciation game. And, it's not, I mean, any investment is not guaranteed, but playing for the appreciation alone, it's, during downturn, you just make sure you have enough cash reserve for that.
Well, and I think that speaks to too, investors have different preferences. And, that's the thing, having worked with investors myself, you really realize that they have a certain profile of types of properties, types of returns, situations where they're more excited about something. I know if you're not in real estate investing, it might be hard to grasp that, because some people are like, well, what's the numbers? And it does come down to the numbers, but it also comes down to interest in a deal. And when I work with somebody buying, a duplex or a fourplex, I could put two buildings that are similar, have similar returns next to somebody, and one of them, their eyes light up, and one of them, they're just kind of like, I'm not really interested in that. And so it comes down to preferences. And yeah, some people might want a little bit more cash flow, some might want a little bit more appreciation, some might want a shorter time window, some might like a longer time window. So it's really kind of playing that matchmaker where you're looking to match that investor's preferences with the goals of that syndication or of that investment. And you're just trying to find a fit, because they're going to be happy if it fits within their criteria. But if you're finding something that's not a fit from, they're just less excited about it. And they might pick apart, things that go wrong versus seeing the bigger picture.
Exactly. Yeah. I can't agree more with that.
So when you're putting that together, for those that don't know, on a syndication, you kind of have two sides. You have a GP side and an LP side. The general partner side are the ones kind of managing it. And then the LP are the limited partners. They're the ones putting the money in. So talk about assembling a team and how that worked out for you guys.
Since I just started syndicating, typically how I find my capital is through family and friends first. And then from there, kind of ask for referrals and so forth. The GP side of it, it's mainly, well, let's focus on LP first. So besides finding friends and family, I'm just trying to put myself out there, to see, being on this podcast with you, writing newsletter, writing ebooks, going out to events, creating my own community to network. That's what I'm working on. That's how I find my investors. In terms of general partners, that's just, again, it all comes down to putting yourself out there and network with people, right? That's how I found my business partner. That's how my business partner found the lead sponsors for our deals. Just being involved in the networking component, but also join mastermind groups, invest in yourself, put some money in it, into joining a group with, surround yourself with like-minded people, and eventually you're just going to have deal flow coming in left and right.
Hey, Mike here. Are you a licensed real estate professional looking to grow your career faster and further with a team of like-minded people on an investor-focused real estate team, no matter what state you live in? Are you looking to up your game and work with live existing database of current real estate investors all over the United States looking for deals in your state? We're looking for great agents across the United States to join us on our journey to build wealth together and help investors together. To learn more, fill out our form at eliteadvantageagent.com. So what types of deals are you looking for in the future? Kind of the same criteria of what you have now. So we should add, I can't remember if you mentioned that, one is a 400 unit and one is a 200-ish unit. So these aren't small deals. These are big deals that take a lot of capital. But in terms of, the future, what are you looking to do?
Yeah, right now I like to just focus on multifamily. I want to be able to get really good at one asset class before I branch out. I'm not opposed to doing everything. I've seen a lot of syndicators nowadays. They do ATM, car washes, and storage units. But I think, multifamily is probably the safest, in my opinion, is the most stable asset you can get yourself in. That's something that I always tell my investor, look, like because they always ask me what are the chances of this failing. Well, I would say 0.4%, because back in 2008 subprime mortgage crash, you have like 4% single family residents that go into foreclosure, but only 0.4% of multifamily went into foreclosure. So you can't get any more stable than that. I think to start off, to build my investor base, that's how I would approach it. But eventually, definitely I'll branch out to other asset class.
I see the value of doing something really well and continuing to hit the nail with the hammer over and over again. But I agree, there's other opportunities out there. But if you can get really good at mastering that asset class, you're going to find better deals. You're going to recognize better deals. You might see opportunity where other people don't see opportunity because you can be creative with that. And yeah, there's ATMs and car washes that you can invest in down the road, and yet you can start with getting really good at exploring your multifamily real estate. And we know there's housing shortages. Most places where you go, we're not building new homes or new properties fast enough. And yet at the same time, with offices, that's my own personal opinion, is it's like that's up in the air, right? Because you've got these large corporations, people working from home, and then people who specialize in office, or industrial space are like, Mike, you're an idiot. Like everything's going to be fine. But me, I know multifamily. I don't know office space. And so stick with what you're doing well and continue to do it well before you explore other options.
Absolutely. And I don't know, to add to that, I would suggest reading the book, The One Thing, right? Just focus on that one thing and master that one thing. It can make you all the fortune you need.
Talk a little bit about investing in yourself and personal development and networking. What have been some keys for you in terms of your growth and the relationships you've built? What are, maybe some recommendations you have for people that want to just grow in business, not necessarily in multifamily syndications?
I would say just, read a lot of books. I mean, just look at all the billionaires. They read like crazy. But besides that, that I think the most important thing is definitely education, right? Educate yourself in any way. It doesn't have to be reading. It could be listening to podcasts. It could be going on YouTube, finding, people with credibility. Resources are free everywhere you go nowadays. It's like, there's no excuse for you not to educate yourself in the field that you're in. So I think that that's a good start.
So outside of the one thing, is there other books that have landed with you? Is there, maybe any conferences you've been to or any, learnings from certain people that have been helpful for you?
Sure. So to answer the first question, currently I'm reading this book, How to Be a Power Connector by
Mm-hmm.
Judy Robnett. It's basically, how you teaches you how to, focus on adding value within your circle of influence, and eventually what you're going to build a very strong network that you can just be able to reach out to anybody at if you have any problems with anything, right? But you have to build that relationship over time. Right. You have to always continue to add value. In terms of mastermind group, I would say, just like I said, go on YouTube, go on Google, and it doesn't matter what topic you want to research about. And you just type in, let's just say, real estate syndication. You'll see all these groups pop up. Research, go on their website, look at what kind of mastermind group they offer. And then typically these groups, they will offer like they'll throw like a networking event, which costs like anywhere between 500 to 1,000 to attend one of those, right? Be around with the people who's offered, because chances are the people who goes to those networking event, they're also part of the mastermind group, right? So you'll be able to, network with the people within the group, kind of get a feel for it. And then, just take it from there, see which group that you decide to join. It does take a lot of due diligence, but it will be all worth it. And I think that's what you got to do if you want to invest in yourself.
Yeah. And the beauty is the more you learn, the better, the more connections you make. It's really just putting together deals and people, and you're just kind of putting those pieces together, and it'll allow you to do bigger deals more quickly, not have to put in as many hours to find the right pieces. And so you're definitely setting yourself up for a great future.
Yeah. And then also, to answer your question, I sorry, I kind of forget, but the group that you asked, I'm currently part of a group called Raise Master. It's run by Hunter Thompson.
Mm-hmm.
And basically this is the group just teaches you how to raise capital. And Hunter Thompson group, this group from 100 people to 300 people in a span of 1 year. So there's a huge demand for it. But essentially, I'll just give you like the quick overview. He just teaches you how to build a digital marketing platform. So instead of you hunting for investors, let investors hunt you by putting yourself out there all over the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Podcast, webinar, newsletter, ebook, website, etc.
I was just going to say, this is literally sitting right next to me. Hunter Thompson, Raising Capital for Real Estate. So
what a small world.
Yep. He's kind of a guy that a lot of people know when it comes to raising capital. So awesome. Well, anything more, Jim, that you want to add and share with people?
Yeah. So if you want to get to know more about my personal story of all the mistakes I learned as being a real estate investor, and how overcoming these challenges, created a path for me to become a real estate syndicator, you can visit my website, formosainvesting.com. On there, you can download the ebook, and it basically talks about all of that. It's a very short 20 pages read. And then you can also find me on all the social media links, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Formosa Investing.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jim, for coming on. It's exciting to see, somebody who's put together some big deals pretty quickly. Definitely, if you have interest in learning more about syndication, reach out to him. Just excited for you, Jim, and in your future.
Thanks again, Mike, for having me.